In this video, I'm going to give you 5 practical ways that pornography and a porn addiction can actually keep you single. First reason that sexual sin and pornography will keep you single is because it will train you to live a selfish fantasy rather than train you to have a selfless mentality in relationships. So the way God designed relationships to work in a healthy way, the way they're supposed to work, is that two people sacrificially love one another. When you read Ephesians 5, for example, verses 22 through 33, you see that a Christian marriage is meant to show the beautiful give and take relationship between Christ and the church. Christ leads the church, dies for the church, sacrifices for the church, but the church is supposed to respond to the sacrificial leadership of Jesus Christ. And so there's this sacrificial love between the church and between Jesus Christ, and God designed marriage to be reflective of that union between Christ and the church. Pornography and sexual sin completely undermine what God would want in a healthy relationship. Porn is all about gratifying the self. A porn scene is just basically putting the viewer as the most important person in the world. It's a fake fantasy world where the person watching feels like they are the center of the world, and some porn star, but in their fantasy, some beautiful person is worshiping the viewer and putting them at the center of the world. They're going to do all their wildest fantasies. And the reason people have to watch porn and do that is because that type of fantasy is a fantasy. You can't find someone to worship you. You can't find someone to treat you like this fake video is treating you, because that's not reality. Nobody wants to worship you. Nobody wants to treat you like a god. Nobody wants to act like you're the center of the universe, because you're not. Nobody is except Jesus Christ. And porn makes you act like you are, and it trains you to be a selfish person. And so when you get into a relationship, you will have a very selfish mentality if you have been watching and idolizing porn. You will not know how to interact with the opposite sex in a healthy way if you have been struggling with a porn addiction, or you just want that porn to be reality. If you're looking for that, you're not going to find someone to have a healthy relationship with. Now, of course, people who are addicted to porn get into relationships and get married and all that kind of thing, but that doesn't mean that they're going to have a healthy Christian marriage. And that's what I'm talking about. You will not have a healthy Christian marriage if you're addicted to porn, because you will have been trained to have a selfish, self-centered mentality, which is the complete opposite foundation of what would be needed to have a healthy Christian marriage. The second reason that porn will keep you single is because porn will keep you isolated. It always amazes me that when people talk about wanting to be in a relationship, and then I start talking to that person one-on-one, and then I learn that they live a very isolated lifestyle, I'm always kind of confused, because it's just very obvious. If you want to meet people, and if you want to get married one day, you have to meet people, is what I'm trying to say. You just can't get into a relationship by yourself. And I know that sounds like, oh my gosh, that is the most obvious self-evident statement that anyone has ever said. But again, if you want to be married, if you want to be in a relationship, and all you do is stay at home by yourself, or all you do is hang out with the same amount of people that are obviously not going to turn into a relationship, it's literally impossible for you to get into a relationship, because you have to meet other people to do that. So porn causes you to live a very isolated lifestyle for a few reasons. People watch porn behind locked doors alone. They don't tell people they're doing it. They spend the day by themselves. It's a dark thing that people are ashamed about, and they don't talk about it. And it's something that you don't do in public. Porn will also keep you isolated and thus increase the likelihood of you remaining single, is because porn undercuts the natural drive that God has given men and women to pursue the opposite sex. A sex drive is not sinful. A sex drive in its proper place is a gift from God that causes men and women to pursue each other in healthy ways. A porn addiction and just sexual sin, self-pleasure, undercuts that, and it releases that tension in an unholy way, and then you don't have that God-given desire to seek another person to express that sexuality in marriage. Now, I'm not saying you should just look for someone to have sex, or just be led by your sex drive, just get married to have sex. I'm not talking about that, but there is a natural element to pursuing marriage that is related to a sex drive. And it talks about that in Ephesians, or in 1 Corinthians chapter 7. One of the characteristics that Paul talks about on people who should pursue marriage is someone who has a strong sexual desire. So God made a sex drive, and in its proper place, it's not sinful. It can lead you to sinful places if you let it, but ideally, what it's supposed to happen is that you're supposed to be filled with the Spirit in self-control, but also realize, wow, you know what? I really like that person. I like getting to know that person. And then the natural thing will happen is you'll start having even a sexual attraction to that person that you would want to marry. Again, porn undercuts that. It releases all that, and it causes you not to have a drive that would force you and motivate you to actually go pursue the opposite sex. I think that's one of the reasons culturally there's so much more singleness in our culture, because sexual self-pleasure and pornography has become so much more rampant, and there's less desire, even just in a natural sense, to pursue the opposite sex because so many people are addicted to porn. The third reason that a porn addiction will keep you single is because it will keep you ashamed and feeling unworthy of a good relationship. So people sense how you feel inside. They don't always get it right. We don't always assess each other perfectly, but God has given us the ability to pick up on certain things that people are feeling inside. So a lot of people can just say, like, man, that guy feels really prideful. And like multiple people feel that way around that guy. Like, man, that guy's so prideful. You know, the things he says, the stuff that comes out of his mouth, the way he acts, just so prideful, you know? And that pride inside of that person is sensed by everyone around him. Or on the positive side, man, that person's really humble, and they just have a really a gentle spirit to them, and they seem very kind and willing to listen, and all those things that are going on inside of that person that are healthy, you sense as well. So when you have a lot of shame, guilt because of your porn addiction, because you're consistently falling to sexual sin, you feel badly about that. You feel dirty. You feel like there's a dark part of you that no one knows about. And that subconsciously gets expressed, and people sense it. They might not be able to articulate it perfectly, but it does keep people away because they sense you have a very low view of yourself, and you don't have that joy that just someone who wouldn't have that shame hidden in their heart. All that, you know, it gets sensed. So that's a reason that porn can keep you single. Another reason is that when you feel ashamed and unworthy, but you want to be in a relationship, what you end up doing is dating low caliber people. So you have a low view of yourself, therefore you believe that you could never date or marry someone who's high caliber or doesn't feel like they're struggling with that type of stuff and they are walking with God well. You're not going to feel like you can even approach that person or ever be in a relationship with that person. So you'll settle for very low caliber people who don't love God or who are doing their own thing. And you'll get into these unhealthy relationships with unhealthy people because you have a very low view of yourself, and the cycle of singleness just continues because, again, the people that you're interacting with aren't marriage material. The fourth common reason that a porn addiction can keep you single is that a porn addiction will keep you awkward and socially undeveloped. So porn certainly doesn't have this effect on everyone, but I certainly have sensed that people who often have a deep porn addiction also are often very socially awkward and haven't developed the relationship skills that they would have if they would not have been in this dark sin for long periods of their life. So, long story short, if you are struggling and using porn and playing video games all throughout high school, and that's all you do basically is maybe chat with people on video games and watch porn all day. That's all you do, go to school, watch porn, play video games. When you get to college, you're not going to have the social skills to meet someone and date someone like maybe your peers might be doing. And then you go through college and you just watch porn throughout college and you just keep doing all that. And then you get into the adult world, you haven't learned the social skills to now all of a sudden be in the adult world, interacting with the opposite sex, meet a person that traditionally happens, and then you get married. You're not going to have developed those things because you spent your social time by yourself looking at porn. So, in short, it keeps you single because it keeps you socially undeveloped. Another reason it creates a very awkward person at times is because sometimes those sexual images literally fill your brain and they mess with you during social interactions. Or you become so objectified, and meaning you see the opposite sex as such an object, and you've detached from reality so much because of a porn addiction. You get around people in the real world and they're no longer on a screen, and you don't know how to interact with them because you haven't learned that. And again, you see them as an object. You see them just as a naked body, a naked picture, some sort of sensual image. And when you do that, because it's been ingrained in you to do that, you're just socially awkward. You're not like acting like a normal person. And those things really do affect your ability to get into a relationship. The fifth reason and the final reason we'll talk about in this video why a porn addiction can keep you single is because eventually a porn addiction will just take over your whole life. The thing about sin, including sexual sin, is that it's always progressive. It never just stays right where it's at. It always wants more. It will always consume more of your life. And if you leave a porn addiction unchecked and you just continue to indulge that sexual sin, it will get worse over time and it will completely consume your life. It will consume your time. It will consume your resources. It will consume your thoughts. And it just takes over. And obviously, if that's what you're worshiping with all of your time and resources and thoughts, you're not going to have a balanced life, which would then lead to social interactions and healthy relationships that are developed in normal ways. If sexual sin and porn is something that you've been struggling with, you might enjoy my book called Redeemed Like David: How to Overcome Sexual Temptation. I offer this book for free in an ebook version on my website, or you can get it in Kindle or paperback on Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to learn more about how to overcome sexual sin. And this book goes through Psalms 51, which is David's psalm of repentance after he struggled with sexual sin with his affair with Bathsheba. So I'm Mark from ApplyGodsWord.com. Again, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already so you can join what the Lord is doing here on this channel. Thanks for watching, and God bless.